So you guys probably know her as an actress, but you may not know that she actually has been an avid environmentalist for years and years. In fact, she was green before it was very cool to be green. And she's going to share with you her most recent body of work called The Kind Diet. And she's going to talk about her journey through the experience of going from a vegetarian to a vegan and how that's changed her life and her perceptions of the world and the community. So with that, I will keep it short and welcome up Alicia.
Here's the book. This book is, thank you all for coming. That's so great, and having me here. I'm really honored to be here, and I'm really, really I'm going to take that quick. Thank you. I'm so excited about what I'm going to talk to you about, so I may talk really fast because I get really excited. But basically, this is not a book for vegetarians, so you should know that. This is a book for anyone who's eating whatever the American diet is right now. So if you're feeling like, well, I don't want to be vegetarian, why am I sitting here? It's exactly who I want to be talking to, just so you know. I guess I'll start by just telling you sort of what happened to me. And in the book, I go into great detail, but I'll give you sort of the brief version. I'll try, which is that, I about 11 years ago, decided that I could no longer hurt animals. That was my thing. And at that time, I, being in Hollywood, people were saying, that I had to lose weight and all this annoying stuff. And at that time, I was very rebellious. So the idea of being healthy was a no-no. I didn't want to be healthy. Nobody talked to me about being healthy. If I lose my career, that's fine. Like, I don't want to know anything about this. So when I made this decision for the animals, it was really, I had no idea if I'd ever have a good meal again. I had no idea if I'd be healthy. I just thought, this is what I have to do in order to look at myself in the mirror, knowing that I loved animals so much, blah, blah, blah. But what happened was about 2 weeks into being vegan, because I just went straight vegan because I had known enough. From about age 8 to 21, I was a flirt. I would decide to be vegan or vegetarian for a few weeks because, my brother would make animal noises of the animals I was eating. So I'd be vegetarian for like a month because he'd be making lamb noises, and then I'd forget because I was 8. So basically, by the time I was 21 and I made this hardcore commitment, the reason I did it was because I saw how animals are raised for food. So that really got me. But about 2 weeks into it, I'm thinking, I never knew. I thought maybe I'd be really unhealthy. I didn't really care because, again, I didn't care about my health at the time at all. So when I all of a sudden people started saying to me, you're glowing. What's happening? Why do you... And you look different. And the biggest thing I noticed right away was that I felt this huge weight lift off of me. Like, I just felt lighter walking through the world. And that sounds really weird, but once you experience it, it's just this amazing thing. And I couldn't figure out if that was, good, I'll let you read the book to get more details because I could go on forever. But the point is that I started to have these amazing reactions, and from people and inside of myself. My nails started to get really, really strong and thick. I started to lose weight. And weight that I was happy to lose. It wasn't a problem. And my hair was getting stronger. Like, everything was just growing, and I was getting really healthy. And when I had allergies, and I had an asthma inhaler, and I had to have allergy shots twice a week. And suddenly I stopped going to the allergist, and I didn't think of it. And the allergist said to me by email, "Hey, Alicia, I haven't seen you in a long time. What's going on?" And I was like, "Oh my God, it's been like a year or something. I haven't been there." I said, "Oh, well, I've stopped eating all this stuff." And he was like, I guess that's why I haven't come, because I was experiencing 0 symptoms. And he said to me, "Oh, I hear that a lot." I was like, "You hear it a lot, that people change their diet and then don't have to come for shots and inhalers anymore?" He said, "Yeah, but why didn't you tell me?" And he just laughed. And by, like an email, he was like, "Ha ha." So anyway, basically my life changed, and I went on this, I thought this was a miracle. This must just be really good karma or something for my decision. But I started to research it and realize that there's all kinds of doctors out there, and there's all kinds of medical research and science supporting this way of living, and that this is actually a healthier way to be. This wasn't just some fluke that happened to me. That people like Bruce Lee and people like, amazing athletes that I highlight in the book, who are bodybuilders, who didn't necessarily care about the environment or animals or anything like that. They just wanted to be the best performers that they could be and feel their best. And they adopted this lifestyle. And so I started to figure out that this was not just some emotional, moral thing that I was experiencing. This was an actual healing modality, and started to see that, Colin Campbell and Joel Furman and Dean Ornish and all these doctors who are doing incredible work healing cancer and heart disease and diabetes over and over and over again, their voices aren't as loud because there's a lot of forces out there telling us, in order for them to make money, they're asking you to eat all kinds of nasty things that are hurting you. So my journey has been incredible. And when I was about 25, I was doing a play on Broadway with Kathleen Turner, and it was super fun, and it was snowing, and I had kind of gone through a little bit of a the raw food kick. I don't know if you've heard of the raw food kick, but anyway, I was on that, and but it was snowing, and I was trying to eat mangoes, and mangoes don't grow in the snow. And somebody pointed that out to me because at the same time, my husband came home and said that he really wanted to start this thing called the macrobiotic diet. And I was like, I don't need to be macrobiotic, because I thought those people eat fish, and I'm already vegan. Like, I don't need more rules or whatever. And I actually didn't feel like I had rules, but I was just sort of being stubborn, as we do sometimes when your husband says something. And so I was just like, meh. And especially because he also said that it was, he'd read Gwyneth Paltrow was doing this. And I was like, well, just because Gwyneth Paltrow says, what about me? I'm on the raw food kick. Why don't you want to do that? And, but Gwyneth Paltrow's a very smart lady, and so is Madonna, and all these women that are doing this. So anyway, I was being resistant, and I went to New York, and I was doing this play, and he was coming to visit me for Christmas, and for his birthday's on Christmas. And so I took him to see this macrobiotic counselor, because it's like everything always happens at once, right? So he says, Gwyneth Paltrow wants to do this. And then I'm in New York, and the director and Jason Biggs are making fun of me constantly because of my diet, and saying anytime I was tired, it was like, well, you better eat some meat, And I was just really frustrated. And I was literally running around trying to find green juice and mangoes and all this stuff, and it was freezing. And so I met this girl, Temple, who I'd known for years, and she looked amazing. And I said, what happened to you? Like, her transformation was so extreme. She was glowing, her hair was amazing, her body was amazing. Everything was on fire with this woman. And we walked 50 blocks home, and she told me about macrobiotics. And I was like, oh, my God. So when Christopher came into town, my husband, I decided to give him a counseling session with this macrobiotic counselor. And I sat in the back while he was getting his thing, just like, this is so lame. And but he was seeming to love it. And finally she turned to me and she said, I don't know why you're so resistant. That acne you have, because I had just gone, and she didn't say it nasty like that, but but she was really loving and sweet. And she just said, you could really heal that acne. And the reason I had acne was because I'd gone off the pill a few years earlier, because as I was getting healthier through being vegan, I just noticed every day, why am I putting, not to say you shouldn't take birth control pills, but this is my journey. I just was like, I don't want to put this weird pink pill in my body every day. This is weird. And so I stopped doing that, but my skin started to erupt because, birth control pills are doing all kinds of crazy things to our bodies. And so anyway, that's what's happening to me. And what am I talking about? Oh, okay. So acne. Okay, backward. So sorry. So I got this acne, and she says I can clear acne up. Now, I'd had it for like 2 years, and it was so frustrating. And I still had the glowing skin. My skin was really, really glowing from the vegetarian diet or the vegan diet, but there was just these breakouts that were happening from the pill detox. And so I was blaming it. And it was that, but there was soon to discover other reasons. So the macrobiotic counselor says to me, I can heal this and I can give you more energy. And so and she also told me that mangoes don't grow in the snow. And I was like, okay, this is all starting to make sense. And she said, a mango's designed to cool you off in the heat. That's why it's in hot climates. It's a tropical fruit. So that started to make sense to me. And we're flying. And then on the environmental I'd already become an environmental conscious person. So now she's talking about the energy it requires to fly all this food all around the place. And I started to understand the local aspect and having food be seasonal and local. And I was just like, this is amazing. So I decided to try it. And again, I'm reluctant. But about 2 weeks in, my skin is like clearing up magically. And all I really had to do, the adjustments that I'd made, because I was already vegan, the adjustments were to kick sugar, because I was eating a lot of sugar, and white flour and processed foods. So now right now you're probably going, you just took away all my food. How am I supposed to eat? And you have to know that I'm a foodie and I love food. I get I'm obsessed with food. There's no part of me that became like a, boring eater. I love to taste food, and that never changed. And in fact, it's become I'm more of a foodie now, and I feel like I have more of a sophisticated palate now, because back in the day when I ate regular American diet, I sort of thought, oh, well, should I have chicken, fish, beef, or pasta? Like those are sort of my brain choices. I don't know about you guys, but that's sort of how I thought. And you don't really think beyond that very much. There may be a little bit, maybe I'll have a burger instead of that. But like you don't really have a huge array of foods to choose from. And when I started to become vegan, I started to learn all these different cultures' foods and all these different tastes that I'd never tasted. So my food thing grew, and I started to taste differently too, because my tongue was freed up from all the chemicals and all the things that were, kind of coating it, the dairy and the processed stuff. So anyway, even though it sounds like I've just taken all your food away, what I want to guarantee you is if you go on this journey and this book, inside here I've got amazing recipes that I promise you will not feel deprived. Because I have to tell you that even though I did give up these things, that I was on a steak and donut diet before I went vegan, just so you know. It's pretty much all I ate. And I can show you pictures of me, and it doesn't look very good on you. But I ate that, and so I understand. I loved pork chops. I loved bacon. I ate all of those things. But I don't I know they tasted good, but everything else I'm having now tastes just as good or better. So it's not about taking away something good and only having things that don't taste good. It's about taking one thing that tastes good and another thing that tastes good, and one of those things is really bad for you and really bad for the planet and has really serious consequences that are really destroying our planet and your body. And the other thing is just doing nice, happy things. It's just nice and happy for your body. It's nourishing for your blood. And so if you have a choice and they both taste good, wouldn't you want to pick the one that's doing good things for you? So that's what I'm here to say, is that this is a no deprivation diet. And the reason I call it the kind diet is kind of a trick, because the actual definition of diet in the 1600s was a day's journey, a way of thinking. And I want to restore that word back to its nice place, because we all think of diet as like deprivation and calorie counting and misery, and I want diet to be a way of thinking and a way of life that isn't about restriction. It's about freedom from your brain being all consumed with what you can and can't have because of how it's going to affect you on a, how big or small your body is going to be, but more about how do I eat that will heal me and nourish me, so that as I get older, I actually feel like I'm getting younger. And I know that sounds insane, because most of us think of getting older as slowly falling apart. But I promise you that I'm getting stronger and feel more alive than I ever have before. And I think that's a pretty amazing thing. And so I just wanted to share all that with you. And is there anything else I need to tell you about that? That it's really simple, and I lay it in the book. I sort of do it in this way where I give you sort of the inspiration of what you might want. Like either you just want to feel better or have more energy or be free from, taking all these prescriptions and you needing coffee to get through the day. Like, I don't need coffee. I mean, I like the taste of it, and every blue moon I'll have a sip, but I don't need coffee. And I never really drink it at all. And And I don't take antibiotics, and unless, like, I get in a dog fight. I got in a dog fight one time. I wasn't fighting with a dog, but I was trying to break up some dogs, and I got 26 stitches in my leg. So I needed some, I needed some antibiotics that time, and some pain pills for that day. But I just think of medicine as something that is a last resort. I don't take any. I never need to. I don't really get sick anymore. If I get sick, it's like for 24 hours and it passes through really quickly. I know how to eat so that and if I do get sick, I know it was not like I'm blaming myself, but I go, oh, I know what I did. I ate that. That's what did this. So I always it's bringing the control and power back into your life. So we're not these slaves to our doctors. Like we're these, sort of victims where we go and help me, I don't feel good and I need all this. And it's like the doctor is just going to give you medicine and just going to give you or cut you open if you're really unlucky. And really all of that is preventable. In most cases it's preventable. So I'm really excited about that. And so anyway, what I was saying is if you are interested and inspired to feel your best, or you care about the planet, how about the planet? I mean, Google seems very interested in the environment. And I don't know if you guys know this, but to produce 1 pound of beef, 1 16-ounce steak, it requires the amount of water that could shower you for 6 months. That's crazy time. I really save water, but 6 months showering water for 1 piece of meat, like that's a big deal. And the amount of oil we're using 20 to 28 billion gallons of oil a year alone in America for our meat consumption, so for beef. So that's an insane amount of oil. So when you're looking at trying to restore our planet and the precious resources that were just dwindling away, the coal, like I said, the water, the oil, the rainforest, it's pretty much out of control. So if you're concerned about the environment or you care about the environment, what I've done in the book is I have 4 nasty categories of food. And those foods, you go through each of them. We say why it's nasty to you, health-wise, why it's nasty to the planet, and then why it's nasty to all the other creatures. And we just go through each of those things. And then you go through the kind foods and talk about what foods are not only not nasty, but actually nourishing you. And this is the way we used to eat. This isn't like a new thing. All of this is just taking you back to your ancestors' way of eating. It's a more natural, more simple, more delicious way of eating. And it's eating with purpose because you have to it's your fuel. It's like buying a beautiful Porsche and then shoving it with like the worst fuel ever. That's what we're all doing most of the time. And you need to to protect yourself and so you can feel your best. So I go through that, and then it's a very easy how-to book. It gives you step-by-step how to do it. And there's 3 different plans. You can be a flirt if you want to, which means no commitment. You don't have to get married. You're just trying it on. You can date your local vegetarian restaurant. You can date some new recipes in the book. Just see how you feel and start adding the good foods and ridding yourself of the bad foods. And then knowing that it's not all or nothing. So the more good choices you make, the better off you'll be. You'll feel better. You'll notice a difference, and the planet will thank you. And then if that, after doing that flirting thing for 30 days, if you wanted to, you could move on to the next section, which is more committed, going to try this. And then when you're doing that, if you fall off, it's okay. You just get back on. I think this whole all or nothing approach really allows us to do nothing, and it's a good excuse. But if we keep trying, maybe you want to be an aspiring vegetarian. You're just going to try to move in that direction. Or maybe you just want to stay a flirt forever, but you keep adding and being open. So it's really just about opening and softening your heart. What this diet will do also is soften your heart and make you feel more grounded and connected to the universe and not have anxiety and feel really purposeful. And those are magical things. So, and there's magical foods in the book. I go through foods that are literally magical and how they affect you and what they can do for you. And there's frequently asked questions. So all your nutritional needs are 100% met in here, and we just tell you exactly what you need and how to answer all those questions about iron and calcium and all those things that you might be concerned about, omega-3s, B12, everything is addressed in here. But the bottom line is you don't need supplements when you eat well. The only supplement you need on this diet, if you do this diet, is a B12 supplement, because we have depleted our soil so much that there's no good bacteria in it anymore. We clean things so well that we don't have the good bacteria, and B12 lives in bacteria, and so when you eat meat, it lives in the organs of the animals. So that's kind of gross, and but that's where you're getting it. So there's a vegetarian form that we used to get from the soil. And so when I'm making food from the garden, if there's a little dirt on it, I leave it on because I figure, yay, bacteria, yay, B12, because I know that everything was cool in that garden. But I don't do that when friends come over. It's only for me. So don't worry. But anyway, I think that's everything that I cover. Oh, and then there's this amazing website that I have up and running right now called thekindlife.com. And that is for anyone who's curious, wants to know more, wants to engage with a community. It's kind of like it's a community basically for you to engage with other people who are interested and curious. And people come on and say, I've just been doing it for 3 days and it's amazing, or I need help, or whatever your deal is. And there's all kinds of people helping each other. And it's pretty exciting, and we're constantly updating it with new information as it comes. And all my groovy, I find all kinds of amazing products. I really love, good makeup products and hair and makeup stuff, and all the things that you could possibly need, but in an environmentally sound, cruelty-free manner that happens to also be delicious or fabulous. So that's what we're putting on the site, like clothing and stuff like that. I think that's everything. If you guys have any questions, I'd love to answer them.
The hair and nails getting stronger that you mentioned, is that vitamin K, which I understand vegetables tend to have a lot of, or green vegetables at least?
Well, some people say that the white marks are calcium marks. I didn't even talk about the marks. You know those white marks you get on? And some people say, oh, it's a lack of calcium. And then other people, a more macrobiotic approach. Oh, by the way, the macrobiotics, I just say one thing because I just remembered, sorry, that in the book we have a superhero diet. If you decide you want to be a superhero, if you're already veggie or you've already gone through the steps and you want to get there, the superhero thing is like the ultimate. And I call it that and not macrobiotics because macrobiotics can be complicated for some people. So this is like the Cliff Notes, all you need to know version for now, unless you want to go further. But anyway, in macrobiotics, they say it's sugar. So most people say it's calcium, macrobiotics say it's sugar. Either way, they're all gone. That I know. So I think that if it is the calcium, it's because you're suddenly eating so many leafy greens and you're eating a lot of seaweed, which has massive amounts of calcium. But maybe it's vitamin K too, and I'm not familiar.
Okay. Also, it seems like you've said there's a lot of synergy between what's good for you and what's good for the earth.
Yeah.
Other than the B12, are there any conflicts or foods that are really one and not the other?
No, that's the beautiful thing. It's amazing to me. That's the thing that moves me so much, that the same thing that is healing the planet is healing our bodies and also healing the animals. Like, what an amazing thing. Mother Nature took care of everything at the same time.
Okay. Do you think there's an evolutionary reason for that? Or
I do. I mean, Einstein said so. And I do. I think this is naturally the way we were. I think that people were not so gluttonous and trying to get theirs, and while you're trying to get yours, you're missing out on everything, and I feel like this convenience thing, this sort of moving, I mean, there's some things that are really wonderful that are convenient, but some things are just so overwhelming and distracting. Like at first, email was so awesome, but now it's like swallowing me. I don't know I need help to get out of how do you have boundaries with email, And so it's a similar thing with the food. We've made all these things so convenient and we're just destroying everything. So, all your grandparents tend to be so inspired when you kind of come with your glass jar. They're like, I used to do that,
Thank you.
Thank you.
And try Gmail filters.
Gmail filters. Okay, I will. Thank you. I'm just becoming technically savvy, so I'm very far away from getting there. But thank you. Yes.
I feel like eating is a really big part of socializing in our society.
Yeah.
So do you have any advice for reconciling that with family and friends who just don't understand this way of life?
Yeah. Well, I go into that in extreme detail in the book because that has been my journey for sure. And eating with family in-laws, and I guess that's called in-laws, right? And just eating with friends over the years. Yeah, I found really easy ways to deal with it. Some of those ways are, just making it fun and light. Because when I first went this way, I wanted to scream. When you read this information, it's like I just wanted to run around screaming to everybody, fire! Because it is. There's a huge fire. And it's like you want everybody to know what's going on. And but I realized nobody really listens to you when you're at Screaming Fire. So I just found that the best thing for me was to take care of myself and feel my best and really mind my own business and keep contributing to the world in the way that I know how and keep improving upon my own choices. Every time a new choice presents itself that I could make a better choice, I do. And in that process, people just come to you and they ask you and they want to know. So family members who I used to try and tell them, now I don't tell them anything. And they're just like, I want to know everything. And you're like, okay, calm down, I'll tell you, or just read the book. So it's really, there's a lot of ways to socialize. And there's also I go through it all. It's suggesting to your friends like, hey, can we go here? This would be really fun. So we're kind of in more neutral territory, or just going there and eating finding the best things for yourself at that place. And then Thanksgiving, but basically it's like chapter, so I don't want to bore you right now with that. But yes, it's all there. And this community will help you with that too, the Kind Life community, because they have great ideas and tips for all over America and all over the world.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
So spending lots of time with some of my friends who enjoy raw food and we go out to eat, I've often found that sometimes it's a little bit expensive.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, as the structure is set up now, it's like maybe a pound of chicken is way cheaper than a pound of apples. So how do you kind of reach out to the population that might not be able to afford this lifestyle?
Oh, it's a great, great question. And I'm so happy you asked that. First of all, financially, well, I want to talk about raw too, but financially, this is really, it doesn't have to be more expensive. If you're going to go eat like at fancy raw food restaurants, yeah. And I actually am not a huge proponent of the raw food thing, which I'll explain to you why in a second. But basically, the poorer people of our communities used to always be the healthiest because they ate local, fresh, fruits and vegetables, grains and beans. And the fat people were the kings. The rich kings were always the fat ones because they were eating all kinds of meat. So it's a very interesting indication of where health lies. And so you don't have to have a lot of money to eat this way. And basically, if you follow the Kind Life, the things that are the most expensive in this book are the desserts because I don't like sugar. But I also explained to you that you can use sugar if a budget is the issue. You can use sugar. I just can't, in good faith, tell you to have it because it's not good for you. But there are alternatives, and there's cheaper. The ones that are really expensive is like the maple crystals, which is like maple syrup turned into like a granulated powder. That's the more expensive ingredients. But buying Earth Balance butter instead of regular batter, it might be a little bit more expensive, but that tub's going to last you forever. And when you're buying Vegenaise instead of mayonnaise, these are like, you have to get these ingredients because they're so great. It might be $1 more or something, but I don't even know the price difference, but I know it's not a lot. And I know that where you really save your money is doctor visits. I don't go to the doctor. Prescriptions and time off work. You have so much more energy that you get more out of your life. So if you're, I think after living this, and by the way, steak is way more expensive than beans and rice. You can feed your family on beans and rice for very inexpensive. But I also give you much more interesting and exciting recipes than just beans and rice. So that's why it can kind of level out. But you can do this on any kind of budget that you want. You can do it really cheap, and you can do it at a more fancy level, buying truffle oil and going crazy. And buying things in bulk makes a big difference, or sharing with friends and buying in bulk, because that's also better for the planet. But ultimately, you're going to save on life force. That's a big price to pay. And you're going to say, so if your grocery bill ends up being the same, you gain more. I actually think it ends up saving you money on your life. And in terms of raw, the reason I ended up moving away from raw was because, like I said, I was looking, I don't think it's absolutely the most, if you love raw, fantastic. But for me, I think it's very difficult to ask someone who's used to eating steak to suddenly convert to like Sunburger. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like let's transition people in a direction. And also I think macrobiotics is so ancient, and it's such an amazing thing from China and Japan. And they just have a way of looking at the body and going, what's going on with your eyes? It's very diagnostic. It's really scientific. So it's different than raw food, which is a beautiful concept, but isn't really actually healing specifically your organs. And, and I also feel like raw food, it's like blenders and like dehydration, and that energy just feels kind of like this to me a little bit. Whereas macrobiotics is really balanced and really rooted and really about healing on a global level. So for me, that's the direction that I sort of, and also, by the way, it cleared my skin up and made me skinnier. So I like that better. Whereas raw food, I was kind of like, plumping out a little because I was eating nuts, and it's so extreme, so much nuts, so much fruit, so much, honey and agave and all these things. So I just felt a little bit unbalanced.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you.
Totally agree with your mission. I've been vegetarian for 10 years. I stopped
Yay.
wearing leather this year, which was the last step.
Yay.
My question is, sometimes when I go to restaurants or I travel, I end up eating really weird random food that's probably not that healthy for me.
Yeah.
Say, if you go to Asia, there's fish sauce and everything, or if you go to a steakhouse, there's a salad with no protein. I was wondering if you had any recommendations for traveling or restaurants in the U.S.
For sure. So in the book, again, I do go through in detail how to eat out, how to go travel. And what I do is I go to happycow.com. Wherever I go, I was just in Paris, and I expected, how am I going to eat in Paris? It's all cheese and foie gras. Like, what am I going to eat? But there were amazing little veggie places all over the place, and they were adorable, and they weren't hard to find. It's kind of everywhere when you start to look for it, so you just have to do a little planning. And so I go in the book, I describe this whole thing that I talk about planning for the next day, because once you make it your priority, which clearly you have, but for all of us who are so busy, I'm so busy, I don't even know, I wish there were like 10 of me to like be able to do what I'm being asked to do. And I'm sure everybody can relate to that feeling. But I found that I can't be good at anything I do if I don't eat well. So I have to make that my first priority. And I really discovered that through macrobiotics, because I used to sort of just like, be running around trying to figure it out on the go. And it's like, I'd rather not watch that show on TV or make plans to do this one thing and just take like 10 minutes before I go to bed and go, where am I going to be for breakfast? Where am I going to be for lunch? Where am I going to be for dinner? And how do I get the best choice for myself possible? So when I'm traveling, I make things like my Rice Krispie treats, which I bring to London. I make like a big batch, and they sit in my suitcase so that if I'm on the go and I need something really quickly, I have it. I also bring miso paste, really good quality miso paste I had this morning because I didn't get to have breakfast and I was coming here. So I had like my little miso paste and some hot water. It just so miso is one of those magical foods. Not the kind you get at a regular Japanese restaurant because they put a bunch of junk in it, but the kind you get at the Whole Food store is just, it's like pure miso paste, and it's like loaded with enzymes, it's like a natural immune booster. It's good for your immune system and almost like a natural antibiotic. It just does wonders for your body. So I like to have that when I'm traveling as a quickie. And sometimes I bring nori. I love to bring nori with me. That way, if I have leftovers, I can always wrap my leftovers in my nori, and that makes everything delicious. Nori is the best thing on earth, those sheets of nori that you get at a sushi restaurant. So yeah, it's really, really manageable. And this community will also dial into you. You can say, oh, I'm going to Alabama. I don't know where in the world I'm going to eat. And somebody in Alabama will come on, and you can say, I'm going to Alabama. Can you help me out? And somebody will come on and go, I live in Alabama. You got to go here. You know what I mean? So it's out there. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
I wanted to first thank you so much for coming. I'm the biggest fan. I love and own Clueless, etc. But
thank you.
But Alex is one of my good friends. She's obviously been a vegetarian for a long time. I'm a convert, at least to pescatarianism, 5 months ago.
Nice.
Today. But one of the big things for me, at least, is exercise. And I wanted to find out for you, they always say diet and exercise. Have you changed your exercise, or what do you do to be healthy, not just from the eating standpoint?
Well, the amazing thing about the Kind diet is it's so flexible. So it's like, if you love exercise, you can keep exercising. If you hate exercise, you don't have to. Like this diet, when I first started doing, like I said, I lost weight from going vegan, and then I lost weight from doing like the macro thing even more. And I never had to exercise in that process. Whereas before I was doing this diet, I had to exercise a lot, and people were always harassing me to exercise. They were like, you have to do this much and you have to do this thing. And it was just so unfun, And so for me, exercise has become something that I've slowly learned to appreciate, but for me, not to appease anyone, not to get to a certain goal, but just more like, my husband's really taught me that sweating feels good. I mean, that sounds really weird. Sorry. I don't mean it like that. But I mean, But that was really weird. But I mean, he always was saying, like, I bet you'd really like to run or, like, spin or whatever and swim. And I was like, and then, but over time, I do really love those things. I don't make as much. I make my number one priority my food, and exercise comes after that. But I often don't really. My work comes before exercise, so I feel it probably shouldn't, according to husband. But in terms of my life and my priorities, if I eat well, I don't have to worry, and that's the amazing thing to me. Because I see people in the gym, and I hate gyms, so I don't like that. But I go to like a spin place sometimes, and I see these women who come in day after day, and they're not getting slimmer, and their skin still looks gray, and they don't have a glow to them. And so they're working out like maniacs, but nothing's happening because they still eat the cheese, they still eat the meat, all those things that are clogging their organs. So like maybe it's keeping them from being like 400 pounds or something, but it's not really doing the magic they want it to do for them. So I think you don't have to exercise. It depends on your thing. If you want to be in the book, there's all kinds of amazing athletes that, have done this because they want to have better performance. So this works for athletes, and it works for a person who hates exercise and really doesn't want to do it. So you can kind of use it however you want to. I do think that we all need to walk more. I think we all need to like walk, and ideally with your feet, bare feet, like feel the earth and feel the grass and, enjoy what this earth has. But even just tennis shoes work too if you can't walk on grass, because there's not a lot of grass anywhere. But getting a good walk feels great. So that's what I kind of do. Yeah, and dancing and yoga and anything you feel like.
Hello, I want to thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And I wanted to ask you about these I don't know, have you heard of MetaFast?
MetaFast? I don't think I have.
So it's one of these programs where you you sign up and you buy their food, and you go in 3 times a day and get weight or whatever, and you stay on their program for quite a while, and then after a year you can lose 75 or 100 pounds. I just wanted to ask you about that because I know people that have done MetaFast,
mm-hmm.
and they lost 75 pounds over a year.
Yeah.
And then they moved and they got off of MetaFast, and then they gained it all back.
Yeah.
And it's you have to buy their prepackaged food, and you blend it, and you drink their shakes 5 times a day, and then you have 1 meal a day.
I don't like the sound of that.
But I just wanted to ask, because this person now, I know them, and they want to lose their weight again, and they're thinking about getting on one of these MetaFast programs again where they lose the weight. But
well, I'd recommend.
So I was just wondering what to tell them to help them.
So what I'd recommend is that they read this, because this will free them for that brain thing of the whole idea of going somewhere where they weigh you 3 times a day. Did you say?
3 times a week.
Or 3 times a week.
Whatever.
That doesn't sound very good either. And then the whole blending thing constantly, and the process. It doesn't sound like real food. And sure, I don't know what is in there, but I know that the real food is what we're looking for. It's to get people back to eating nourishing, delicious, real food. And if it takes a little bit of time, just a little bit, to make that effort to find it or make it yourself, it's worth it. And then you don't have to be on a diet ever again, and you can go to France, and you can go to Italy, and you can go wherever you want in the world and be free and not have to have your little MetaFast shake. You know what I mean? Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Alicia. I wanted to say that as someone who got a copy of your book and bought one and went through some of the recipes, it was so much fun to just sort of explore parts of the grocery store that I never really knew existed. Asking the people there, the people that worked in the store, sort of if they know about these products, and sort of having them investigate too, because they actually also didn't know that these products existed. But the greatest thing I think about the book, and maybe you can speak to this too, is just sort of how it can be a project.
Yeah.
And just sort of a collaborative thing with friends to do on a Sunday afternoon. Get some friends together and cook some things, like made your peach cobbler. I told you about that earlier.
Yeah.
But it's so awesome. It's so tasty, and I would never have known that it didn't contain butter or any other dairy or anything fattening in it. So it was pretty incredible.
Yay.
It's better than like a diet book that I've tried that kind of makes you feel, I don't know, cheap, like you're skimping out on something. This doesn't feel like that. So
good.
Just wanted to speak to that, or if you have any comments.
Well, thanks. And I think that the ingredients that you're talking about maybe are like umeboshi vinegar, which for some of you might be familiar. Maybe your mom's had it, but it's umeboshi. Was that what you were looking for? Or?
It's like kuzu.
Oh,
and
kuzu. Okay.
shoyu.
So kuzu and shoyu is really what shoyu is it's soy sauce. We all know what soy sauce is, but shoyu is just a cleaner version of it. So it's not with all the yucky stuff in it. And kuzu is a seaweed that agar is a seaweed. Kuzu is a seaweed too, isn't it? I can't even remember. Let me see. Have to look it up.
I know
I'm
it's
pretty sure
a
it's a seaweed.
thickener of some kind.
Yeah, but it's it looks like crack. It's really awesome. I want to show you a picture of it. Kuzu's this amazing.
It does come in little plastic baggies. I did see
It does.
that. That's
It
true.
does. Okay, look, this is kuzu. Doesn't it look like powder? You know, but it's so good for you, kuzu. It really is. It's not crack, I promise. But it's so good for you, and but it's in the macrobiotic section, so you might have to like move over to the macrobiotic section. But even in like regular grocery stores these days, like Ralph's and things, there's this amazing new product called Gardein. Not that new, but he's developing newer products, and he has this, fake chicken, but it's not fake like processed gross chicken. He uses quinoa and all kinds of great things, but somehow it turns into this amazing chicken breast thing. And my husband's been making it, grilling the, sautéing the chicken cut up with onions, and then putting it on these pizzas. This is for when I try not to have this kind of food around me too often because I'll go crazy. But it's really yummy for if you have kids. Well, you guys don't have kids, but maybe you do.
Well.
I don't know, but kids and husbands and whatever. Because it's just fun food. So Amy's makes these amazing frozen pizzas, and she makes them with no cheese, and they're like whole wheat spelt crusts and things like that. And you can take the roasted vegetable Amy's pizza and put this chicken that is from Gardein with grilled onions, and then on top, and he adds more cheese too from Earth. There's a few great new cheeses out there, but Follow Your Heart makes really a great one, and then he makes a milkshake on the side with rice milk and things like that, and ice cream, and not regular ice cream, but ice cream, and they're delicious. So you can do so many great things, and I'm so glad that you're loving the recipes, and I'm glad that you feel like it's a project. That's how I feel. I feel like everywhere I go is an adventure, and I love engaging with the waiters at restaurants and saying, what would make you sad if I didn't have while I was here? And sometimes they're like, don't want to talk to you at all, and they just look at you like you're the most annoying person ever. And sometimes they're so excited, and they're like, oh my God, you have to get this. And then you're engaging in a fun conversation with someone. So I really think of life as a big adventure and project. So taking the effort to take care of myself and the planet and these creatures all at the same time is so much fun, and it's such a pleasure. And putting something in the compost bin thrills me. We have a compost at home, and seeing the lizard Larry the lizard who waits for us every day on our compost thing. I believe it's the same guy. It might not be, but we like to believe he is. Looking up at me, like it's so much fun. And so, yeah, I think it's all really exciting, and I'm so glad you feel that way.
Thanks.
Hi, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about, why and how you decided to kind of make a transition in your career to focus so much on this stuff as both a spokesperson to write the book, and what are your plans, in the future with this?
Well, I became famous when I was really young, and it was really scary and weird and freaky. And I wanted to I kind of got really isolated, and I had these passions that were starting to grow about all this stuff, and it was just a way for me to kind of. I was just called. Like, I felt like this was more important than everything I was experiencing. So in some ways, I kind of, turned away from what was happening. But I hope I can, it's sort of like this. I was always sort of being restrained from talking about this. It was often like, you stop talking about because it was sort of like that's all I wanted to talk about. but I think now that I'm a woman and I really know what I'm talking about, and I really know from experience of this being for so long, the decision to write the book was that I'd helped all these people. I have a lot of friends who couldn't poo. You know, they were like constipated, and they didn't poo for days. And I was like, you have to be pooing every day. It's terrible. And so when you change their diet, suddenly they're going to the bathroom every day, and sometimes twice and 3 times. So I saw such great results, and I also had I wasn't like studying their thing, but you know what I mean. So. And then I had other friends who had ovarian cysts, and there was this one girl who had ovarian cysts, and she was going to have surgery in 1 month. And I was like, can I please just have this month of yours? Like, you're going to have your surgery, but just let's see what happens in this month. She did it. And after that month, when she went to the doctors, they checked, and she didn't have to have them. They were already shrinking. So it was, when you see those kinds of results firsthand, like I know those are happening to people all over the world. Like, you know, all the doctors I mentioned who are curing heart disease, cancer, and diabetes, and all these things, I knew that was happening. But when my little hands are able to be connected to that and help people, that's unbelievable feeling. It's so remarkable. It blows my mind. And they kept telling me, you have to write a book. And every time I'd give them my information, it kind of came in this big pamphlet, or it was sort of like this big epic file on the computer. And finally, one particular person was like, you need to write a book right now. Like, stop this nonsense. Stop kind of like spending I was spending so much energy as an activist for so long, helping so many different people, but it was so exhausting and not organized. This is an organized sense of, and I can reach more people. And so that's really what I'm doing. But I've been doing, even though you haven't seen me in film, I've been doing plays I love the theater, and I kind of went back to the root of what it all was so I could play again. And I found why I wanted to be an actor in the first place, because I started to hate acting. And I found that I love acting and I love theater, and that's really what I want to do. So I want to be in movies too, but I've just been doing a bunch of theater. And so I did David Mamet plays. He directed me in a play. That's fantastic. David Mamet's a genius. I'm doing Donald Margulies' play, and I'm doing a play on Broadway this year with Laura Linney. And so I'm going to continue to act, and I'm going to continue to hopefully help change the world with this book and the website. And I also made these bags that are really cool, that are going to be at Target and Walmart and places like that are totally environmentally sound. They're made with recycled PET. They're basically cosmetic bags that are made with hemp, recycled PET, and vegetable dyes. And then they're makeup brushes that are all beautiful, and they feel really good, and they're made with bamboo and recycled metal. So we're trying to just create, wherever I see a need, I'm trying to fill it as best I can in my little way, and that's kind of what I'm doing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Second question. We at Google are very lucky because we have chefs that make us incredible food.
Yeah.
Every day, vegetarian, so friendly,
Yeah.
and meat also.
Yeah.
I just was curious what you thought about the food here, and if you had talked to any of our chefs.
Yeah, I did. I loved Elizabeth. She's so sweet. And she was the chef over at Slice. And I loved that you had coconut water. That was fun. Although I do think, like, still it's traveling a long way to get here. We don't have coconuts growing here. But it's a fun treat. So I had one because it's delicious. And I don't know if you've ever had coconut water, but it is tasty. And then I had those little energy bars, which were really yummy. I would think that would be a dessert or a snack. And she made some recipes for my book that were delicious. So I could tell you that. The aramay turnovers are amazing. And aramay is a really important seaweed to get into your life if you can get it in. And so I'm sure if you ask her to continue making the aramay turnovers, she would here. They're so good for you. And try and get some seaweed in your life. It's good. I like the food here. It was really good. I was talking to the guys, and it would be so amazing if they have that sort of art piece project of how the food is, there's that one vending machine where there's the stuff and it shows you kind of how much it would cost. It's the one place you have to pay. But that kind of inspired me to think, wouldn't it be amazing if here at Google you guys had all your plant-based food for free, and then you did the actual cost of what it actually costs environmentally, for your health, and all that for all the other products, so that you can make that choice, and it would make everybody a lot healthier.
Awesome. Well, Alicia, thank you very much for speaking with
Thank
us
you.
today. It was an awesome talk.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.